Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for May 14th through 17th, 2021. How are you doing? Well, we have been feeling the intense square of the energies of Mars in Cancer and square to Chiron in Aries. Mars, the ruler of Aries. So a lot of tension here around where we haven't lived to our full potential. In fact, if we continue to go on the timeline of the artificial intelligence agenda, we're getting further and further away from our access and our right to exercise our right of living. We're coming to a point where it's like, are we going to live humanity or are we going to give way to the artificial intelligent agenda? And it's just, we're right here. And so, but for the supernova soul, this tension is about where you haven't lived true to who you are, where you've been suppressed, where you have been disconnected, where you have played small in order to survive, where we've all given our power away in order to continue to exist. So we're facing these places, and it's coming up as frustration and impatience of where we haven't been able to move forward. But Mars in Cancer is saying we've got to nurture ourselves through this time. We need this active compassion for us and for the masses of humanity as we go through this incredibly powerful and magical moment in history and time. But this Mars square Chiron is just an intense, like a pressure around, just really showing you where you haven't been living true to who you are, where you haven't been expressing your right to be a human in a body, which is to live. It's all of us right now, but also core wounds of the supernova soul, because you've been targeted and killed for who you are in past lives. This is the energy of the Piscean age. And we've had a huge shift here because we've got Jupiter just has moved over into the sign of Pisces. Jupiter back in December moved over into Aquarius, already moved all the way through Aquarius and into the sign of Pisces. This is really important because Jupiter is the bringer of light, of expansion, of possibility, of hope, of luck, of connection. And wherever Jupiter is, it's trying to expand that energy, bring more of it. And in Pisces, we're talking about spiritual revelation. There's an important message here because Jupiter taking a retrograde this year, it's moved over into Pisces, and then we'll go back into Aquarius, and then back into Pisces. So 3 times over this cusp, which is the cusp of this shift of ages. So everything right now is about the shift of ages, is about the turning of the tide, the tipping of the scales. We're at this point, and it's so wild, the astrology, how it's speaking to this. But Jupiter moving into Pisces is like bringing an energy of wanting to expand into spirituality, into love, into hope, into connection. And there's a very powerful message here around, if we're going to get into the Aquarian age, into the golden age of this next chapter for humanity on Earth, we've got to claim back. It's not just enough to heal the darkness of the Piscean age. We have to claim the mystical, magical revelation of the Piscean age, which started this whole story. And supernova souls, you have a direct connection to the last shift of ages, when we moved into the Piscean age. And this is when there was this direct dissension of God consciousness available to humanity, represented by Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is just the definition that's been shown to me, is just this accessible God consciousness here, right? So it's what can live and breathe in our cells. This is why Yeshua in the story, he came as a man incarnate. We're all incarnating now. You are connected to these mysteries. And now it's time for us to incarnate this Christ consciousness, this bigger self of the supernova soul, this part of you that is exactly around the wounds of Chiron, this potential you have, all these gifts and skills, this access to life force, your higher intuitive skills that you've been playing small and disconnected from in order to survive. It's like coming up to be received, to receive back your birthright of your co-creator status. And it's a really tricky place right now, as this astrology is showing us. And there can feel very challenging moment to moment for supernova souls right now to stay present in that God consciousness. And yet that's what we're being asked to do. We're being pushed and pressured into a 24/7 vigil with life force and expression and our right to be in this energy. But Mars in Cancer is talking about this active compassion, this energy that's trying to move old stuck grief, right? And that's kind of it. It's like, when you're stuck in grief, there's unresolved grief. You can't get into the future. You're constantly in that loop of the past. You can compress that grief down. You can hide it. You can pretend it's not there. And this is kind of what humanity's dealing with right now. We cannot get back to the light of who we really are and into this beautiful golden age ahead of us until we face the darkest dark that's keeping us, that's deeply suppressed in each of us. This is the Black Moon Lilith mysteries we've been working on all year. And the Black Moon Lilith is the darkest dark, the blackest black. It's the secrets and distortions and shame hidden within you and in the collective consciousness, and represented by the lies that we have been living by. It's like that dark side of the moon. And the moon can represent pretty much, if we knew the full truth about the moon, everything we thought about everything would just disintegrate. And that's the thing. We could find that through that. We could find it through the darkest satanic shit that's going on. We could find it through political truths. We could find it through financial truths. We could find it through, there's all these avenues that are available right now for a massive revelation for humanity to be like, wait a minute. We've been playing somebody else's game. And we had the power all along. And that's this Mars square Chiron, frustration, tension in your face where you have given your power away, And, but the nurturing energy, like, can we find this active compassion for ourselves through this darkness? Because this Black Moon Lilith sextile Neptune is saying the only way back to spiritual revelation, that cup of God, the 22 degrees Neptune, 22 degrees Pisces, the only way back into the light is to face the darkness. We can't pretend it's not there anymore. It's about to bloom right in our faces. Now, some of us are aware of these things, and it makes an incredibly excruciatingly painful time, because there's this massive cognitive dissonance going on in the collective consciousness. And the message, the picture of what I'm being shown is that, like last year, we were really doing good at just establishing that higher dimensional reality and being able to like be present. I could feel people just really like establishing in that new energy, right? But we've been compressed into this knot of timelines because we've got to go through this portal together. And that means that we can't ignore what's going on all levels of this play, because it's all a part of God's play, right? It's all a part. It's all happening within creation. Even this darkest dark, that's such an attack on life itself, such an attack on the human psyche. Our human psyche is being completely attacked. Our emotional power being used against us every day through fear and control tactics. But the message here with the Black Moon Lilith sextile Neptune, it's magical. It's like, here's your way out of the trap. You can do this. Just slip through, right? But you cannot get back to that God revelation consciousness without facing this darkness. And most of us have compensated this darkness down to this tiniest little place inside of us that we've been avoiding for a really long time. And that's where we have to talk about suppression. That our world is based on an idea of suppression. Make it go away, make it go away, make it pretty on the surface, right? And then the truth of what's going on underneath can remain hidden, not anymore. Whatever the heck has been going on in these sacred sites that were turned into churches in the basements, that shit's got to get fully resolved, fully exposed. This is the spiritual revelation. It's truth. My whole career life as a spiritual seeker, it's been about how can I help humanity through this time? How can I support spiritual awakening? And the message that has come again and again is that the masses awaken through truth. And there's just a big dam of truths being held back except the pressure is building. The pressure is building. And you supernova souls on the front of time, you cannot pretend you don't know. You cannot pretend you're not real. You cannot pretend you're not fully living. You represent the future of humanity. You are on the cutting edge. And thank God you're here and not scared of facing that darkness, So you can guide humanity through this wilderness, and yet you've had to go through that yourself first, all alone. But that's who you are. In order to be here on Earth as supernova soul, as an advanced soul, before you came to this evolution, you had to go through a very painful process of squeezing yourself into a little tiny box. That's your 3D body. There's no way you could have accomplished that as a soul and made it here with a long lineup of crazy souls that wanted to be a part of this. You couldn't have made it here without your intense desire and love for humanity and desire to see humanity, to see this Earth evolution come into its full flowering, what we really came here to do. So you've come here with a mission and a purpose to be in this place right here at this time. And I'm sorry it's so alone. And I'm sorry it's so attacked. We're so stuck in this timeline crunch has pushed us all back into this knot of timeline. And so there's this energy of attack on the light, right? Attack of the truth, attack on, this feeling of the old 3D ways, and you're stuck there and you can't go anywhere. Nothing's working anymore. You don't belong there. And yet here we are, and, but it's all has to do with this being willing to face those darkest places within ourselves, to go into those compensated places, because we can't take any of that energy with us. And that's what's going on. And you're leading the way, and you are so brave, and you're doing it alone, but you're not alone, but it's just part of the process right now. So I just want to recognize this intense feeling of frustration that's coming up in supernova souls and all of humanity. I think they don't know, but this, cognitive dissonance, this pressure on those of us that are awake, that are trying to hold on to the silver cord and the golden light. And so, but it's because we're all being squeezed into this place, and nothing can get us out, and nothing can stop this process of revelation. But it's you cannot, this Black Moon Lilith sextile Neptune, you can't get to that cup of God until you face that darkest dark. Now, the darkest dark is this programming. It's all programming, shame programming. And we've just been playing small and keeping small because we don't want to look at this. And this is where humanity, as they face truths, hard, difficult, dark truths, it's facing the music. And that's the only way that humanity, and the only way we can really move forward. Because if these dark truths aren't revealed, we'll just create them again and allow that to be in our consciousness. And this is a huge energy right now is coming up for you souls that are on the cutting edge, on the forward, the edge of time, because you're coming up against this wall. And the wall is this blocking of truth and revelation. And because we're all squished in the timeline, it's this feeling of it's really hard not to feel what the collective feels in their cognitive dissonance. Now, this will shift for you. You'll have way more permission for lightness and levitivity as more truth comes out to the collective, and you're going to feel better, and just hold tight and be present. And, part of this energy is pushing us into this vigil in our heart with the true heart light. And this dedication and devotion to the truth of who we are as sovereign beings in God consciousness. And so, that is the gift of these times. But for all of us, we can't get back to that mystical, spiritual, divine revelation, which is our birthright and our definition, the definition of humanity's evolution and the beginning of the Piscean age. And we can't get back to that mystical, spiritual revelation until we face the darkness. And we can't get into the Aquarian age until we claim back this mystical spiritual revelation. So maybe this can be helpful. It's going to be painful to face these truths for humanity, but it's the only thing that can bring us back united and bring back our regular everyday experience of God consciousness and light and love and truth and source and creation and co-creation and really living. So the celebration, as humanity claims this golden age, is going to be so beautiful and so beyond all that we're going through right now. It'll be so worth it. But we are at the edge, and it's a very uncomfortable place. I just want to talk through that because it's we cannot ignore. We're all pushed together, whereas before we could kind of go along and be like, I'm going to be in my own reality over here. But now that's emotional suppression. And so it's time to unpack these darkest places within us. And that's this, sextiles are magic. And Black Moon Lilith, the darkest hidden dark, in a magical configuration with the cup of God, and it's almost like we can only get out of the mind control of Piscean age when we face that darkest dark and move through that back into the light. We are at this place of birth, of consciousness. And maybe that's part of the frustration. The world is showing us, go back to sleep, push down, right? But this is the deal, like say with the physical body and suppression of disease. You can suppress it with like Western medicine, strong, pushing the energy down into the body, suppress, make those symptoms go away. The person is going crazy and depressed, right? But at least they don't have that skin rash anymore. But anyway, you can suppress, but eventually the organism is going to pop. That life force is going to rebound and throw off the disease. And this is exactly where we are at this time on the planet. And we can't go, this is what's frustrating, because you cannot create in this energy, and it's that this is what's coming up because Venus is now in Gemini. We got Mercury in Gemini. Mercury will take a retrograde in Gemini next month. But it's rehashing the Venus retrograde we had last year. And ever since then, I know because of these world situation, everything, people have been feeling so confused about who am I? Where am I going? I thought I had a direction. I thought I knew what I was doing. I had these plans and everything just got blown out of the water, And so here we are a year later trying to pick up the pieces, and still Venus, as soon as it moved back into Gemini, it was like the same feeling came up of like, I'm not getting anywhere. I had no idea. I've done everything I can to try to figure out the next steps of how to move forward and what I'm doing here. And maybe that's a reaffirmation of the fact that, we can no longer create. We've evolved beyond, we're stuck in this knot of timeline and back in 3D in some level, but we cannot create here. And maybe that's this uncomfortable pressure of waiting for something to shift in the collective consciousness, so that we can pop out into and reestablish in that higher dimensional vibration and the possibilities. I see this mystical revelation raining down on our earth right now, but blocked by the technological control grid. So how do we circumvent? And that's hosting this light right in our heart. And maybe we can use this energy of frustration to push us into the light of our heart. Now, when you're there, we've had so much energy with the South Node getting triggered, of Mercury North Node, and South Node and Sagittarius trigger for supernova souls, feeling like, so here we have this lack of direction. The world isn't working for you, nothing creating. The people can't come, that energy avenues. I thought maybe I had a glimpse of things happening, and it's just so, but there's this so much within you, ready and waiting in the wings to be expressed, and this incarnation of your God consciousness. And maybe everything can push us to that place where it's not about action, because I think I'm supposed to figure out what I'm here to do, and I have a role, and we all have a role to play, right? But this is more about right action when you're coming from this place of centered within the truth, right? It's different than spiritual denial and lack and inaction. That's inertia, right? And this is a deep mystery of physical form. Physical form is energy held into place by inertia. So the whole definition of physical form in 3D is the holding back of an evolutionary experience on some level. And it's like, can you feel it? It's like we're busting out. We're getting, busting out of those britches. We're humanity's about to say, throw these chains off, throw that disease off. but that's going to be having to face some hard truths. Ego death for everyone. I was wrong. I trusted the wrong people. But this is where humanity and we for ourselves need this active compassion of this Mars and Cancer, this deliberate action of compassion, that humanity got so duped into this dark plan because they are that trusting. And this is where I'm being shown like humanity's evolved way beyond the stories of war and strife and social division. We all want the same thing, and it's just like, so this negative creating of events, of dark traumatic events that the cabal energy, the control energies try to create, like, it's like the consciousness can't create that. We've evolved beyond it, right? And here we are in a battle in like the moving forward and the stagnation. And that's where there's tension on our physical form, which is why we have to, Uranus and Taurus, a complete revolution in our relationship to physicality. And then represented by new financial systems that can better support the true expression of humanity. No more dark money, no more potential for these hidden dark arts to be practiced on our planet anymore. So it's interesting because this whole 6-month period of time from January to July, we've had Saturn square Uranus, and they come back into exact square next month in June. Saturn is our manifest world in Aquarius, trying to figure out how to build in this new energy and what we're doing. And then square to Uranus and Taurus, which is this revolution of wealth, revolution of physicality. Then Saturn in Aquarius, or let's see, Mars has been in the square with Chiron, and we're going to feel this through the weekend, right? But it's lessening off, and maybe we'll get some clarity and feel like we found, kind of like we can find some peace in this place of being in between and on the edge, and this push, allowing this energy to push us into our the flame of God in our heart. But that pressure. But Mars is also in a sextile relationship to Uranus. And so Mars and Cancer, sextile, creative solutions. So our revolution of our relationship to physical form and to wealth and value can be helped along magically by active compassion and moving the old grief. It's all about uncovering the wealth of humanity, which you represent. Because you've held on to this, you came with this, you squeezed yourself down into this reality so that you could be the living, breathing example of what's possible right now. No wonder you're being so attacked. But the dam's about to break. The revelation is about to come. We can only get back to that light, true light, not this false, fake ego spirituality, right? We're talking humbled in the presence of profound spiritual revelation, walking, living, and breathing in this full awareness that you are not this physical form. Living, breathing energy of light. That's how we transform our physical world, as we transform our physical bodies into light, literally coming into our light body. So this is what we're doing. And just know that this can be an excruciatingly painful process, especially after the cutting edge. You've been staying awake. You've been keeping your silver cord. You're stuck playing out these old stories of the Piscean age of constant attack on the light and truth. And yet you're still here doing it. And the dam's about to break. Just hang in there. Energy is going to shift. And that's an interesting thing because we are moving into a Mercury retrograde, right? At the end of the month, it's going to go retrograde until the solstice in Gemini. But Gemini wants truth and expression and is willing to explore and shift and open the mind, consider different points of view. So this Mercury retrograde is going to be a disclosure retrograde, which is interesting because typically Mercury retrograde, the action stops kind of. It's like it's squirrely and you don't want to make big moves because you don't know what's coming. But what's coming has been planned long ago. And so this Mercury retrograde is a perfect opportunity for this drip, drip disclosure, dam breaking of information, mind shift, mind control, structures breaking down. And we're right there. And you're holding it together. You know, like if you're sensitive, you're feeling the collective consciousness preparing for this big change and this disconcerting feeling of cognitive dissonance, this inability to face the fact that we've been lied to. But there's no getting around it, right? And it's just, we're at the end of the road. We're going to have to face these dark truths in order to get to the light. And this is for ourselves too, right? And for supernova souls, that's everywhere that you have, you know, what this Mars square Chiron is showing you, everywhere that you have given away your power and the frustration at playing small and pretending you're something different than who you are. And it's like, you know, frustration and impatience around that. But then Mars sextile Uranus, it's like, oh, well, that's because you're so wealthy. That's because you're so laden with spiritual gifts. You're feeling this way because you're doing it. You did it. You made it. You're here. Thank God. To be on the cutting edge, to be the living, breathing example of new possibilities. And but when we're shown all the limitations and the places that we've given our power away, it's like we have to see that in order to take it back, right? Like this whole pantomime movie that's playing out, it's humanity. Everybody had to put the mask on. And so we all had to personally experience this domination and control. People don't realize that's what it is yet. But we can't get out of it until we see it completely clearly. It will have to be fully disclosed. You know, the bioweapon, the taxpayer dollars funding this bioweapon, and then this attack on humanity and your livelihood. It's just a direct attack. So it's got to be fully exposed. And you are here to hold space for that. And you're doing it, and you're doing a great job, and hang in there, and it's going to get better. And use the frustration and the tension to push you back into that power and that right action that comes from that place of connection. You know, it's like this whole thing of when I even say God consciousness, it's like, oh, it's something out there and we can have it, or we can get it back, or we can da-da-da. It's like, no, it's right here in every cell. And this vax is trying to disconnect every cell from God. Disconnect. No. Let us be your tech God. We're going to be your tech gods. We're going to control you through cloud software, remote controlled humans. And you represent every single cell. Every moment and every day that you're here and breathing, you are fighting for this. You are a warrior. And give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself that active compassion, and keep breathing in this temple light in your heart, because it's so crucial right now. And when Yeshua went to the wilderness, it was dark and painful. And the separation, what he was really doing is separating out his consciousness from the physical. And he went on, transfiguration into his light body. And then he went on coming back and out, in and out of physical form, right? It's a choice to be in physical form. This physical form is not who we are. But it's like we're being squeezed into this organism of oneness right now to experience the darkest dark together, so that we can bring everybody back to light, where we go one, where we go all, which is why if you got your head in the sand and you're all blissed out in 5D, then it's a disconnect with reality, and you're in just as much cognitive dissonance, right? And we got to somehow reconcile all these levels of suppression, hiding of truth, suppression, attack on life itself, and claim back life by fully living. And so this is the energy, and it's time for us with Jupiter in Pisces to reclaim that mystical spiritual revelation. And so we're going to do it. We're going to go through that darkest dark and come back into the light together. And so know that we're on the edge of the shift. You're going to feel better as we have this shift in the collective consciousness, and you're doing it right. The fact that you've been feeling squeezed, and maybe there's like this, the supernova soul, light worker soul has a tendency to be like, oh, I'm like, my vibration isn't right. I'm not doing it right. I'm failing, and I need to be in this other energy, and we create our reality. And it's like, yeah, we're in a big soupy mess right now. And just be nice to yourself, because you are representing this silver cord and this magic and this truth. And God wins, and nothing can stop it, but we still got to play out the motions, and it's like that dam is about to break. And so we can face these dark truths we want to pretend don't exist, but we can't erase them out of our reality. They're still stuck down in there, and we can't get out of the loop of the Piscean age of the past until we move and process this collective grief. And it's kind of like, are you here? Like, what are you doing here? You came here for this full expression. You came here, but you came here because you love humanity and you want to see Earth evolution come in its full potential. And that's you coming into your full potential, which is an exciting expression of co-creation forces, your divine right as a living, breathing human soul in a body, direct access in every cell. Don't give it away. Hold on to that. That's what you're doing right now. And it's so beautiful. So it's almost like you're separating out from all your bullshit and all that shame stories and all that, and the lower personality constructs, and, claiming your God code energy. And that is exactly metaphorically what the whole earth is doing with trying to release all the dark stories and all the control energies and mechanisms. So microcosm of the macrocosm, and just hang in there and be really nice to yourself and love yourself, and use that active compassion towards yourself, and be okay with just where you're at, because you don't want to suppress anymore. You can't do it. And once we face that darkness, we can put down all those stories. Oh, that's not me. Ugh, I played that out, but that's not who I am. And just put it all down and make room for the revelation of light that is to come. And playing your role as that living, breathing example of what's possible and a whole different way of being. And you're preparing for that, and you're living that, and we get to do it together really soon here. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great weekend, and dark to light. We'll see you on the other side. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.